Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. In a recent interview with Meltdown from Detroit's WRIF radio station, legendary rock vocalist Sammy Hagar reflected on his time as the frontman of Van Halen, a band widely regarded as one of the most influential rock acts in history. When asked whether he had any regrets about his tenure with the group, Hagar made it clear that he harbored no ill feelings about the experience itself. He expressed nothing but pride and appreciation for his time with Van Halen, emphasizing that while he didn't regret being part of the band, he did regret that their collaboration eventually came to an end. Hagar explained that his only real disappointment was not having the chance to create more music with Eddie Van Halen, the band's legendary guitarist. He believed they had only scratched the surface of what they could achieve together. In his view, the creative partnership between the two was just beginning to evolve in exciting ways. Hagar noted that Eddie had been entering a period of significant musical exploration, expanding his repertoire beyond guitar and even experimenting with other instruments. He recalled that, in one of their final conversations, Eddie had told him he had been spending a lot of time playing the cello, an unexpected revelation that intrigued Hagar and sparked his imagination. Hagar had jokingly urged him to play something, saying he was ready to co-write a song featuring the cello, which to him symbolized how far Eddie was willing to go creatively. This moment highlighted for Hagar just how broad Eddie's musical vision had become and how much potential still existed in their partnership. He believed that, as artists, the two of them had a remarkable creative chemistry, one that had allowed Eddie to explore musical avenues that had previously been closed off during the band's earlier years. Without naming names, Hagar pointed out that Eddie had previously faced limitations due to resistance from other band members, especially in terms of using keyboards, which had been discouraged by Van Halen's original vocalist, David Lee Roth. Hagar, however, had been more open to different sounds and musical structures. He recounted how, when he first joined Van Halen in 1985 and began working on what would become the 5150 album, Eddie initially presented him with two guitar-driven songs, Good Enough and Summer Nights. But what struck Hagar even more was what happened next. Eddie sat down at a piano and began playing a stream of complex, emotive pieces. It was then that Hagar truly grasped the depth of Eddie's talent, not just as a guitarist, but as a well-rounded musician with a genuine gift for keyboards. Among the melodies he played were what would become the foundational riffs for songs like Dreams and Love Walks In. Hagar was astonished, realizing that Eddie had so much more to offer than what had been previously showcased. For Hagar, it was clear that Eddie had long harbored a desire to grow musically, to break past the barriers that had been set for him by the expectations of the music industry and the structure of the band in its earlier incarnation. Reflecting on that time, Hagar expressed his belief that, had they continued to work together, they would have eventually transcended the conventional expectations of what Van Halen was supposed to be. He imagined they could have ventured into more innovative and experimental musical territory, creating something truly groundbreaking. Hagar acknowledged that this vision may not have been embraced by all fans, particularly those devoted to the band's harder-edged, guitar-centric sound. He recognized that some die-hard Van Halen fans might have seen such an evolution as a departure from the band's roots, perhaps fearing it would undermine their legacy. He imagined critics and fans might have responded with skepticism, longing instead for more traditional tracks like Pound Cake. However, Hagar didn't let such hypothetical criticism diminish the artistic possibilities he saw in Eddie's growth as a musician. For Hagar, that missed opportunity failing to take the band into new creative territory with Eddie is the only regret he holds. Aside from that, he regards his time in Van Halen as the pinnacle of his musical career. He described it as the greatest experience he's ever had as a musician, something he believes he will never surpass. With a sense of humility and realism, Hagar acknowledged that trying to replicate those heights would be futile. That chapter of his life, he said, is over, and rather than chasing it, he chooses to be grateful that he was part of it in the first place. Sammy Hagar's era with Van Halen began in 1985, when he stepped in as the band's new lead vocalist, replacing David Lee Roth. His arrival marked a new chapter for the band, one that resulted in 4 studio albums, 5150, OU 812, for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge and Balance. Each of these albums achieved commercial success, with all 4 topping the US charts. This period of Van Halen's history is often viewed as a significant evolution in their sound, with more emphasis on melody, harmonies, and the inclusion of synthesizers and keyboards, elements that had been less prominent in their earlier work. The band's final collaboration with Hagar came in 2004, during a U.S. summer tour that brought the original Van Hagar lineup, Sammy Hagar, Eddie Van Halen, drummer Alex Van Halen, and bassist Michael Anthony back together for the last time. However, not everything about the reunion was smooth. According to reports, Anthony had to make significant personal sacrifices to take part in the tour. He allegedly accepted a reduced salary and signed over his legal rights to the band's name and logo in order to participate. Despite the tensions behind the scenes, the tour allowed fans to witness the lineup one more time before Van Halen's activity began to slow down in the years that followed. As time passed, the relationship between Hagar and Eddie Van Halen became strained. However, in a touching turn of events, the two managed to reconcile shortly before Eddie's death in October 2020. The reconnection between the two musicians served as a poignant final note to their turbulent but undeniably impactful history. Hagar has spoken publicly about how meaningful it was to mend fences with Eddie before he passed, suggesting that their bond, built through years of collaboration and shared artistic highs, ultimately endured. Looking back, Sammy Hagar continues to view his time in Van Halen not only as a high point in his musical journey, but also as a period of creative fulfillment and personal growth. While he may occasionally wonder what might have been had the band stayed together longer, he chooses to focus on the music they did create and the memories they made together. For Hagar, the legacy of Van Halen is not just about the hits and the fame, but about the creative spirit he shared with one of rock's most innovative guitarists. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.